Hi, Gail Fugit, President and CEO of the Advertising Research Foundation, and I'm here with Brandon, I was saying Brendan, but Brandon Berger, who's the Chief Digital Officer at Ogilvy and Mather worldwide. And so we're just going to have a little conversation here because we were both just kind of bemoaning the fact that we're halfway through CES.
Barely, yes.
Yeah,
Feels
right?
like barely,
2016,
yes.
Barely halfway, almost halfway. That'll probably be midnight tonight, so we got a ways to go.
Right, exactly. We're counting the minutes.
You were speaking today.
Yes.
So what'd you speak on?
Well, I was on a panel talking about kind of content and Hollywood and what's happening in that world and what that means for marketers and brands, but also what that means for the industry and what that ultimately will translate to with consumers. So it was
interesting.
It was a good discussion. I think we're still moving along this kind of continuum of digitizing all content and distribution.
Yes.
So I think it was a good conversation.
Yeah, so you've been passionate about this for years. I mean, I actually picked up that you started your career in your dorm room.
Well, I used to build what's called MUDs. They're basically text-based.
Gamifying.
Text-based Dungeons and Dragons. That's kind of
absolutely,
right?
Yeah.
So, I did that in college.
Massive games.
And then ended up moving to the Bay Area, as everybody does. I started in banking, but that wasn't really what I wanted to do, and I ended up at Netscape, and kind of that's where I really kind of started my path in digital.
Right, and you also invented a company.
Yeah.
Yes. Talk a little bit about that.
I started a technology company.
Where'd the idea come from?
It's funny. It came from. So I was in New York at an airport. I was living in San Francisco, and I was watching.
An airport, like we were just talking about.
Right, always. And I was watching all these people with their Palm Pilots, and at the time that's what they had.
Yes.
And I had a Palm Pilot, and I thought to myself, wouldn't it be so much better if we could figure out a way to engage with the world around us through content and data via this device? And
really? When was that?
In 1998.
Yeah, so you were super early on that.
Very. One might say too early.
Prescient.
But yes.
Well, yeah, timing is everything.
Timing is everything.
That'd be good to we can work that over a little bit.
Yes, but basically from there, kind of came up with three other partners. We came up with this idea of distributing data and content to devices via location. And it was kind of the.
Wow.
I met with one of my co-founders a couple months ago, and we were sitting having drinks, and we looked at each other and we said, we created the first
we were right.
beacons
right.
back 20 years ago. Basically.
Right. You were right. You were right on.
Yeah, a little early though.
Yeah. Well, so what happened? So that was invested by Sequoia Capital.
Yes, and some others.
So that was a hit. What happened?
It lasted for a long time. It moved from infrared data delivery to 802.11 and Bluetooth, and kind of fizzled out along a journey.
Were you working that at the same time, or was that more a sideline?
So I was there full time for about 4 years.
Okay.
But as any startup you're a part of,
you
kind of
evolve.
it's a journey. It's a roller coaster, right? And,
absolutely.
There's a point in any founder's journey where you may not get paid, and you've got to pay for your employees. And so there was a long journey of that.
Yeah.
So eventually I needed to start making money. So ended up at Ogilvy, helping them kind of. The way it happened is I met a gentleman who was leading Ogilvy Interactive at the time, Eric Wheeler. He and I met, and basically he decided to hire me to figure out what to do with me. I knew mobile, I kind of knew technology, I knew products, right? And
I'm not sure what you're going to do, but I want you to come anyway.
Right. I was very lucky, and a bunch of great people like Carla Hendra and stuff believed in what I did and helped me kind of grow in that, into helping build the innovation group and kind of the start of my career at Ogilvy.
And how long have you been at Ogilvy?
I was at Ogilvy for 3 years at that time, and then I left to go to MDC Partners.
Okay. And then you went back.
And then I went back to Ogilvy.
I missed this part.
Yes. And I've been at Ogilvy now it'll be 5 years in a couple days.
So you're said in a secular way, you're the prodigal son, right?
I am the prodigal.
So what happened? What had you going back ultimately?
It was interesting. When I left Ogilvy, I really wanted to understand the business of advertising.
Yeah.
How do you buy and sell companies in advertising? How do you think about it from a P&L perspective? How do you look at it from a talent perspective? How do you look at it from a scalability? All of those things. And I had a great experience at MDC learning about kind of how do you think about agencies as businesses to ultimately grow and scale. And that was amazing. And then I got Carla, again, reached back out to me and said, hey, we need somebody to help us kind of set the next agenda for digital. And our chairman, Miles Young, who's an amazing CEO, who's very visionary, and he and Carla brought me on board to help build kind of the next evolution of what Ogilvy was going to be.
And you did. I mean, you've really put a big imprint on that.
Thank you.
I understand that you have taken digital from 10 to 40% and created a trading desk.
Well, that was at MDC.
Okay.
We got that.
You can take credit for that anyway.
No, I mean, but at Ogilvy, I think really what we did is we put digital into the heart of the organization.
Got it.
And we built Social Ogilvy, which is the largest global social agency network in the world. We've built an amazing mobile business.
Yeah.
With the heart of it, our company Bottle Rocket, who builds tons of apps. I mean, everything from NPR to Showtime. We built a data practice. We really kind of put digital everywhere, and ultimately it was reflected in the work. So a lot of about over 50% of our work now that won a Cannes this year had digital in the heart of it, which I think is a true barometer of kind of how the culture and the organization has embraced what we do.
Talk about how you navigate that with your clients. Do you encourage? We think you should shift X% of your budget to digital or to mobile or to these other platforms, or do they come to you and say, here's kind of how we're planning to allocate our spending, let's work on some creative for this?
I think it's a very collaborative. I mean, a lot of ideas that we come up with now are inherently digital, right? I mean, because if you think about every single consumer base,
we all process
right,
that way. It was like you in the palm, right?
Yeah, I mean, every consumer, spends the majority of their time on a digital device, and so therefore, if you want to reach them, you have to do digital. And so I don't think it's been a kind of you need to shift in this space, but really an idea can be empowered through multiple different ways, from social media to mobile to content. And then I think the flip also is that I think we're seeing digital, digital is a very, very quantifiable medium. And as more and more brands look to quantify what they spend, I think it's just inherently
yes, this level of accountability for marketers has gone way up.
Right.
Prove that it works, or
exactly.
we're not doing it.
Right, and then add in the e-commerce layer,
yes,
which is about the transaction. And many clients of ours are really planning on building, and growing big e-commerce businesses, and so it's a perfect way to do that.
What's your perspective on creative? Do you think that it should be one creative execution across all platforms, linear TV all the way over to banner ads, or do you think it should be customized to the touch point?
I don't think you can do one object and distribute in different ways. I think you have to be conscious of how your consumers are engaging with whatever piece of content is, and how they're consuming it may be on a mobile device, it may be on a large screen, it may be via Snapchat, it may be via an influencer. Yeah. So I don't think there is one size fits all, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I think that from a scalability perspective, that's a desire, but I think at the end of the day, you really have to think about where your consumer is consuming content, and then ultimately what that is going to be and how those two come together.
Yeah, we're doing some original research actually at the ARF on this, precisely on this question, and we're using neuroscience to actually see. We believe that brands are built in the brain, and that they literally imprint themselves.
Right. And
so rather than asking consumers, what rating would you give Cheerios, near and dear to my heart, and you were looking at the stat, right? Like a 1 to 10 or whatever. Do you relate to this? Is this like your personality, and all those kind of proxies that we've used in research over the years? It's basically to really go in and use neuroscience and see if there's a difference. And we were coining it as storytelling, where you use different creative platforms on different medium, and you maybe tell a story and draw the consumer through.
For sure.
That
you could tell a story
series
on
of
one
steps.
channel, or you could tell it cross channels. It really varies, and I think that it all depends on kind of what you want to accomplish and who the audience is, right? If you're going to talk to a millennial, you're not going to want to be talking to, delivering a 30-second spot. You're going to be wanting to create content that's relevant to them on their channel, and it may be through an influencer who owns, a relationship with them.
Absolutely. And that tie to e-commerce for millennials is really critical too.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, the percentages. So you've had this really interesting career across different companies, and you've clearly created an awful lot of change. What about failure? Any experience with that, and what's your perspective on that? How did you bear up? Did you hide yourself in the closet and eat cottage cheese, or
I do beat myself up a little bit.
Somebody the other day said tequila and wine. So
tequila and wine, and wine together.
Well, no, they were like, well, wine, and then they were like, and then tequila, especially with clients, because the Adderall's like, sometimes a lot of tequila with the clients helps.
I don't look at at our startup that we created as a success. I think
I was picking that up the way you were speaking of it.
I think it was a wonderful journey.
I did. I thought it was.
Every failure is a success, right?
Yeah.
I think so. It was an amazing journey.
I think that's a good way to look
and
at it.
And I learned, and I grew, and I was able to take that experience. I went through my savings. I gave up a lot, and I think I benefited from it because I grew a lot and I learned a lot. And if I did it again, there are many things I would do differently. There would be different ways I would look at the world. And so as far as economically and financially, it was a total failure. As far as a learning experience, it was amazing. As far as a company that had an exit or anything like that in the books of the great annals of digital, it would be considered a failure. But so I would
see what I think is so funny is more than not, the folks from Silicon Valley have been talking about the fact that their stripes are their failures.
Yeah.
That you have to have those stories of things that failed, and that's like your street cred.
It's funny because earlier on in my career, after Wide Ray and after having done this, somebody, I kind of felt like, I did a startup and it didn't work, and all these other people did was great. And then I was having a conversation with a VC, and we were talking about it, and he said, that in itself is the kind of person that we want to be involved with. Just because I've had the experience of failing, and I think if you never fail, then you never
There's
really can
a risk
learn to
of
succeed.
hubris, I think.
I agree.
If you, are resting on your laurels and thinking that I can keep doing the same thing and I'm always going to be able to deliver these kinds of results. The world changes
The innovator's
really
dilemma,
quickly.
right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Clayton Christensen. So, you're 20 under 40, right?
I was.
You were.
I was.
Now you're
And
over
now I
40.
just broke that.
20 under 50.
Yeah.
What does it take to be 20 under 40? What's the?
I don't know. I think I like to say I like to push really hard, and I like to take risks and do things differently. And I try to look at the world not by the status quo, but really kind of what it could be.
Yeah, I really like that. You seem to have restless dissatisfaction.
Yes.
And
as David Ogilvy puts it, divine discontent.
Yes. That's yeah. Yes, I'm glad. I was trying to figure out which one of us was going to quote David Ogilvy. Those are
we always have
the
to, right?
Ogilvy Awards. Yes, yeah. Mine is like, don't use research as a lamppost, right? Don't stand like a drunk on a lamppost, right?
Or the consumer's not a moron. She's your wife.
Yes.
That's a great one.
Yes, that was quoted earlier today too.
Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, a little dated Mad Men. And you're writing a book.
Yeah.
What's the book about?
Well, I had originally been
it appears that you kind of have a bucket list.
I do have a bucket list, yeah.
Yeah, you do?
I
Was
do.
a book on the bucket list?
Yes. My wife is really a writer. And so she's the one who should be writing the book. We can cut that part out. I don't say that.
Don't worry, we'll save it.
We'll remove that part.
Yeah.
But
it'll just be published on the World Wide Web for all of us.
No, I'm working on I started working on a novel a long time ago.
Oh, you did?
And it's somewhere.
That was like the last thing I thought you were going to say.
60 pages in. But now I realize that that there's an opportunity to really kind of talk about kind of all the change that's happening in the world.
Yes.
And how that is impacting our marketing world.
I think you should.
So that's what I'm working on right now.
I mean, you have multiple vantage points, which is really advantageous.
I try to kind of look at the world through that.
Yeah, and the other thing is you're this skill that you have of the insight of, I'm seeing these kinds of behaviors, so how about if we did this with it's observational skills, but then a lot of people observe things, but they don't all do things about it, right? They have a friend that's in the art world, and she was, it was contemporary art, right? And people walk up to contemporary art and they're like, well, I could have done that.
Right.
And I love this quote, she said, yes, but would you? Did you?
Right.
Maybe you see it after someone else does it. You could have.
Yep.
But I really get that kind of sense of originality from your, kind of the spirit that you bring to things. What would you say is or are the biggest successes that you've had in this past year? What things are you the most proud of? I'm done quoting stats from your old job for your current job. I'm like, I'm gonna throw that in.
I mean, I'm proud of the journey that we as an organization at Ogilvy have been on, and I think we've accomplished a lot in kind of the transformation of our organization to be much more digital, to make it the heart of the work we do. The talent of our organization is very digital now. We think about the world through that lens, so I'm very proud of that. I'm proud of some of the capabilities we've expanded and built into, like our mobile business now.
Say more about that. What's your mobile agenda?
So, what's our mobile agenda?
Yeah.
Well,
or your
mobile's,
vision, maybe.
Yeah, sure. Mobile is one of the most important technological advances ever, right?
Yeah.
Like the automotive, I think the mobile device is just like as the airplane, the automotive. The mobile device is critical in that path, and I think as marketers, we're just really scratching the surface of the opportunity there. Everything from data to content to applications to all of the ways that we can kind of enable people to interact on that device, both.
I agree.
With brands,
I think we are
with
scratching the
retailers.
surface.
Yeah, so I think we're just on that journey, and we're really lucky because we've built and Bottle Rocket's a part of us, and really kind of we've started to build out really amazing capabilities that I'm very proud of, that I think will set us up for a nice path into the future with mobile.
How hard's the sale with the advertisers?
It's funny. I have a lot of advertisers that are saying we need to be mobile first.
Yeah.
Because we do.
Yeah.
And so I think it's shifting there. I think there's, enterprise level mobile applications are, obviously have a longer sales cycle, of course, and require a lot more integration with systems and processes and organizational structures. But I think creating content and creating services for consumers, we have to do them in a mobile way, and I think a lot more clients are asking that.
Yeah.
So it's good. I mean, you see those which provide services layers, enterprise, et cetera, those ones are doing more mobile first than, and then kind of more brand stuff is less because it's kind of more general.
Yeah. You're really at the epicenter of change. I'm curious how you see fraud and ad blocking,
Sure.
and how much is that coming up? I'm doing my research with you now because we're trying to sort that out at the ARF.
Everybody's talking about ad blocking, right? Okay, yes, it exists.
Well, it's been around for years, right?
It's been around for years, right? I mean, remember the pop-up blocker?
We used to change the channel.
Right,
So
I mean, same thing, yeah.
we only had 3 channels.
Exactly, but I think the fundamental problem that the reason why ad blocking has come up is because the ad units, not the creative, the advertising units are slowing down the experience, right? And I think if we think about the consumer, on both from a technical perspective.
Say more about that. Are the pods too long? Is that?
I mean, not something the pods. It's more the load times, and I mean, you're on a mobile device and you're running around and you're pulling data. It slows it down, right?
Completely.
So that's totally one part of the issue. I think the other side is
you get in and you can't get out.
Right. The other side is that I do believe we need to continually up our game in terms of the type of creative work we do, right? In mobile. I think that's another thing. And then I think the third is we have to understand that the mobile device is really a utility device as well. So how are we going to add utility to that consumer's experience to ultimately want the brand to be a part of that journey? So I think those three things are going to be what are going to, are what needs to be kind of thought about as we want to solve the ad blocking problem. I mean, native advertising is a solution for ad blocking, and it's a great solution because it also is thinking about the user experience.
More permission-based, right? Yeah.
So
yeah, it's very interesting. So let's talk timing a little bit. I mean, you talked about having learned about timing, being ahead of your time a little bit. At what point do you think mobile, everybody is everyone at CES is talking about mobile advertising.
Right.
And creating mobile advertising, delivering mobile advertising, being a mobile advertiser, selling mobile advertising.
Right.
I'm thinking maybe everybody can't do that. Or there's going to be a point, there's going to be an asymptote, there's going to be a point where it's enough already, right? And we'll have to reset somehow, almost like the internet did. And when there was it got a little frothy and we had to get a little reset on valuation. I know I'm mixing kind of business metaphors, but what's your sense on timing? I mean, do you think it's just how high is up and that consumers will continue to change and adopt mobile at a pace at which mobile advertising can continue to be?
Well, I think there's two questions you're asking, right? So the question one is where's the top of mobile advertising?
Yes.
And the other thing is where's the top of mobile, right? As a platform, right?
Yes. The adoption rate.
I don't think.
Or the speed of adoption is kind of like one of those, right?
Right. I mean, but I think the speed of adoption is irrelevant in terms of kind of the services layers that we're going to put on top of the mobile device, right? There are so many different services layers as we see all the time, kind of that you could put on top of using mobile, right? From dry cleaning, right? Managing your dry cleaning, managing your reservations at restaurants, hotels, checking into hotels, car service. I mean, all of that stuff, you can continually layer on that. Now, is every single one of them a billion-dollar business? Probably not, right? But there are a lot of services layers that we can add onto this device on one side. So I think there's a lot more room to grow. And I think as that device gets more connected to more ecosystems, there's going to be other services layers on top of that. So I think there's a lot of room there. I think the mobile advertising place, I think we've got there's a lot of stuff in the market, right? There's a lot of companies. There's a lot of duplication of services. There will be consolidation in the mobile advertising landscape as well. I think that's going to be inevitable, but there will also still be new companies and new services on top. Native, video marketplaces.
Yeah, I like that way of thinking about it. Do you think the consumer is going to get to be the arbiter of that? There's a pretty solid fact that consumers, in spite of all the apps they have on their phones, they pretty much focus on about 5.
Right. But those 5 apps are pretty much powered by advertising, right?
Absolutely.
So I don't think the consumer is going to be the arbiter of what happens in the ad tech marketplace for mobile. I think that will sort itself out as more platforms and more devices and more companies and begin to kind of look at them as stacks versus kind of silos. I think on the mobile services layers, I think they'll be the arbiter of what services they use for sure. But I think we will continue to provide them new services. I think.
Wonderful. All right. So, what predictions do you have for 2016?
Wow. Well.
Versus resolutions, right?
Yes. Well, I mean, some things that I'm going to be watching out for.
Yeah.
And,
that's what I want.
I mean,
Give me a checklist, even.
I mean, I'm really interested in what happens with AI, artificial intelligence.
Yes.
I think the IBM cognitive computing era, I think is really interesting.
We talked to Johnny Wada this morning.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's amazing, and I think that. And
he would be thrilled that you said that.
Okay.
He would just be thrilled.
I mean,
because he said on 10-year arcs, they've come up with these connected branding platforms, and the one now is cognitive business. So he would be absolutely thrilled that you already have grabbed onto that.
But it's totally right, and I think that's what's so powerful about it, because as computers get smarter and able to kind of interact on layers of data and stuff, they can be much more serviceable. They can be more beneficial and more utility to consumers. So I think I'm really excited about that. I think messaging is going to be interesting too. One thing I like to do is I like to I like to look east versus looking west in Silicon Valley. I like to look
Far
east to
east.
like Asia, and
Yes.
I think we've seen a lot of growth in messaging and kind of how those platforms have driven. So I think that will be interesting. I love connected homes, connected devices. I think that's an interesting space as a consumer. I'm excited about that.
What are you going to have in your house? What's going to be in your connected house?
Um,
Do you have any of that stuff now?
I have
Are
some
you
stuff.
turning your heat on in your cabin?
Yeah, I do all
Your-
that stuff. Yeah, I have a
I
smart
suspected
TV.
as much, yeah.
I'll look forward to kind of being able to talk to my computer and having that things happen. But and that'll be interesting. I had the lights going for a while, but that's kind of a little clunky sometimes. But,
Yeah.
I'm excited about.
It's not always as smart as
No,
it should be.
Right. I mean,
Same
some of the
with the
stuff that
heat.
Samsung's doing now with like being able to order from your fridge, I think
Yes.
that's exciting. I
Yeah,
love that. The Instacart integration.
I spoke with someone in leading advertising at Samsung about that. I think
Yeah.
it's really interesting.
It's great.
You have a tablet on the outside of your refrigerator.
It's great.
I'm like, what happened to all the magnets and all that stuff,
Right.
right? Yeah.
Exactly.
So, predictions for your kids and technology. You are so visionary and brilliant. I'm really interested in what you see coming. Your kids are you said, are they 2 and 4, 4 and 6?
6 and 4, yeah.
4 and 6, yeah. I had the 2 years part,
You
but
did,
yeah.
Well,
What do you see for them?
it's amazing. I watch them with technology, and it's and all the time.
I was
And
thinking about that with the refrigerator, actually,
Right,
but
yeah.
you need one like down here, right?
You do, right? Exactly. They'll put a step stool. But the way they expect everything to be touchscreen and enabled is really, that's the truth. And they expect it to be very simple. And my kids go and we've got Xfinity like X1 system, and they like go and they talk to it and they have it put on different channels and different programmings. I think that's amazing. I love their just kind of interaction with anything, but I think simplicity in design, simplicity in user experience is very important. And being able to be intuitive is going to be critical. So I think I'm looking forward to more of these platform and devices to have better user experiences, following suits of Apple and stuff like that, to be more engaging for my kids.
And do you think that is there with our kids? My kid is closer to your age, but do you think that there could be a pendulum swing back to kind of artisanal? I think about farm people buying shares of farms and food, and
I think
what's
you
happened
walk
in
around,
education, homeschooling.
Oh
some
yeah,
of all
that's
that,
amazing.
right?
You walk around and see these people walking around with their devices. Kind of, I think we're gonna. The interesting thing about wearables and kind of this new, more and more technology, I think it will seamlessly integrate into our world.
Yeah.
So it won't feel like it's so much of a kind of an interruption, and it's more of a kind of part of their ecosystem.
Yeah.
Turn on the lights, order me a sandwich. Let me order. I ran out of milk.
Yeah.
Just that kind of intuitiveness that allows us to get back to the things that really matter, which is about our human interaction and the way we behave and the way we interact with the world. And so I think hopefully, and I think more and more technology will integrate in that way, especially for our kids, my kids. But I think I do encourage them to play. A lot of parents say,
Yes.
video games, no screens. My kids can do those things. I encourage my kids to
I do
program.
too.
I encourage them to do all that stuff, but we still throw the football around. We still play outside. You have to.
Yeah, it wasn't a trade-off.
No.
My son's generation, they knew how to, in private school, they weren't allowed to have phones, but they all had them. So they knew how to text in their pockets.
Oh, really?
Yes, look, these are survival skills, right?
Yeah.
So it's just fun to see what the adaptive behaviors are of
It's amazing.
Every generation.
My son, he's 6 and he builds robots. And we were having a conversation the other day, and we were talking about artificial intelligence and how these robots that he builds will ultimately be able to interact with him and understand what he's saying and understand what he's thinking. And he was so excited about that idea that he just kind of really wanted to kind of start exploring it. And I encourage that with him. I encourage them, from learning how programming works to he's doing coding, all that stuff. It's great.
Yeah, so you're lifting up the next generation in your house.
Trying to.
From the dorm room to your house,
Trying
right?
to.
You got a little coder on your hands.
I'm
Good
trying
luck
to.
with that.
Yes. Both of them. I want them both
Your
to be.
mom's probably like, well, that's turnabout's fair play, right?
Right, exactly. That's true.
What a great full circle to come to, where you speak about while so much of your career has been based on successes and learning and potentially failures in technology, but then to just speak about human nature and the needs and really accommodating to how people want to be and what they need, and still full of the wonder of all the new possibilities that can happen in front of us. And I just think that, Ogilvy is so lucky. David Ogilvy would be thrilled to hear about, the future of all the things that you're helping create and invent. And I'm absolutely thrilled from the standpoint of the Advertising Research Foundation and what I've learned over my career, to hear your vision for how you want to bring technology to advertising, and your really clear thinking about timing and how things are going to proceed. So it's just been such an honor, Brandon, to spend time with you, and at the end of 2 long days, but 2 more to go. So this is, I don't know if this is the 4th inning stretch or something.
It's like 36 hours left.
Yeah. So thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Really
It was a pleasure. I appreciate it.